Why did Cartoon Network had some of the baddest chicks of all time? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, don't get me wrong, Nickelodeon did too, right? You had people like Vicky and obviously, Sam from Danny Phantom, and I guess Fee if you was into Harvey Beaks because yeah, sure, she can get it as well, right? There's a few characters, right? The entirety of the Loud House. There's a few characters that absolutely slap in the field that they need to. Hell, 2012 TMNT with April, because that is a peak version of April. I'm not gonna lie, she had a dump truck ass, and we will not forget the damn screenshots and camera work they did on her at that one point in time when she was held up on top of that mutagen. We're not forgetting that anytime soon. But honestly, if we look at the whole catalog of just straight up like, the shows that came out on Nickelodeon, I feel like it lacks in comparison. Like, don't get me wrong, yes, they had like things like Avatar, which is unbeatable. You had things of the sort like that in, maybe XJ9 from My Life as a Teenage Robot. Sure. But there was also really good bangers when it comes down to Cartoon Network. Like, I think of the Cartoon Network side of female characters way more than I would of Nickelodeon half the time, if I'm gonna be honest, right? Because let's just be real. There is too many to count. Like, let's just say, for example, the Powerpuff Girls. Yeah, sure, why not? They're fine. They're perfectly fine. And then they have many variations of them, or at least the anime variation, which, yeah, would definitely clap all of them, and I don't see how you wouldn't want that. That just sounds like a good time to me. Then you get something like Totally Spies, which is also really damn good. How the hell has no one thought about them in a while? I don't know. I know they have a show, or at least a new version of the show, but still bad as hell. Honestly, just gonna be real. Sam was my favorite person back then because she was like bad as shit. I don't understand why, but it was the case. Then Clover came through, and I was just like, oh hell yes, let's absolutely go. Then you get something like, I guess you want to include Frankie from Imaginary Friends at Home and Fosters and all that stuff. It's been so long since I heard the full name of that show, but you get the point. Frankie about bad as hell too, right? So it's just kind of like, yo, there's a lot of damn characters within the Cartoon Network timeline of things where there were just stacks of content, right? Sure, again, you had Avatar on, Nickelodeon, and then you also had, like, the Loud House, sure, but at the very same time, I don't feel like it stacks up to Cartoon Network in its entire history of just fine women, right? Because, hell, let's just be honest, you don't have things like a Scooby-Doo or even like a Jetsons, honestly, because let's just be honest, Jane about fine as hell too. I know no one talks about the Jetsons. I never really talk about it. It's not even my favorite show. In the old days, I prefer Flintstones much more, but when it comes down to it though, just Jane about fine as shit. I don't see why, you wouldn't want to clap that and all that sort of stuff. George ain't hitting on that because the only thing he's hitting on is his job. Jane's lonely. She needs somebody. I'll provide. And that's just how it is. Same thing with the daughter. It is what it is, right? And then obviously Scooby-Doo, still to this day, content ooze out of Rule 34 just off of like Velma alone, and then we add Daphne to the mix and literally any other female character that was included into the Scooby-Doo pipeline of anything, it's game over. It is absolute GG's at that point, right? And it's just kind of crazy. Again, the list just kind of goes on, and it doesn't have any true stopping point until you get to like the modern-ish era, and then certain ideas just don't hit the same as it once used to, which is a bit shit, but it is what it is. And I know somebody might be like, well, what about Disney? Disney has a lot of female characters that's worth a damn, and you're right, there is quite a lot. Honestly, the movies alone carry a lot of the fineness when it comes down to the prestigeness of clappability of their female characters. If we're going to be real, literally chuck up any Disney princess for the most part, and it's worth a clap, if we're going to be honest. Like, there is not a timeline where I'm sitting here just like, oh yeah, I don't want Jasmine, because I absolutely do. Or Mulan for that matter, or even like Anna in some shape and form, right? Or Vanellope on Sweets. There's countless of Disney princesses alone just off of that is worth a clap. And then that's not even including, certain other shows like the Proud Family. We all cracking Trudy. That is how it is. We are all gonna crack the shit out of Trudy, and we're gonna enjoy that ebony ass. And a little off topic, arguably they had some of the best or better cartoon shows, at least at that point in time of like the early 2000s, like House of Mouse. Why the hell has Disney not brought back House of Mouse? Why the hell have they not done something like that after all this time when that show was absolutely peak? I do not know, and I will never understand why they have just dropped that show where all the Disney characters just come through into one package. It doesn't make sense, it's wild, but that's just kind of how it is though. It's stupid, but it is what it is. Like, I'll even go as far as to say Kim Possible is worth a damn. People still faff off the Shigo, and I'm not mad at that. Or what about the one chick from The Emperor's New Groove? Not Yzma, hell no, but the other chick that Kuzco was always trying to impress in that show, right? That shit was also really damn good. But if I'm gonna be honest again, as great as those shows are, and as fine as some of those women are, still doesn't stack up to Cartoon Network, right? Because again, it's just the spot of where it is. There's still tons of names I can still think of that's worth a clappability and just worth a damn. Anybody from literally Teen Titans. Literally. Hell, that is the awakening for a lot of people, especially when it comes down to people like Raven and whatever, right? Then you get something like Total Drama Island, which there was a fair amount of fine chicks in that damn show. Gwen was really my awakening, if I'm gonna be honest, when it comes down to, you know, how fine golf women can actually be. Then also you gotta remember it's a French show, so remember that scene where Heather had her whole top tucking off and all that sort of stuff? There's an uncensored version of that. It looks crazy. It's wild that they actually did that and even showed the censored version in TV in America, because that shit would not fly these days. But when it comes down to it, that's really damn good. You know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Code Lyoko. Remember that show? That peak-ass opening? Still really good. And still, Aelita and that one big forehead black hair chick, still about fine as hell, right? And it's another French show, so you know there's like I think there's like a whole bath scene with the black hair chick and she kind of looking mad nice. Again, there is just peak and primeness literally everywhere, and it's just so damn good, you know? All this stuff from Cartoon Network. And I don't understand how the hell did we lose all of this in the modern age of just cartoons. Can I just be real? I feel like there is only a rarity of shows that will come through to absolutely slap you in the nuts to show you some good female characters designs and whatever, right? Because we sure as hell do not get that anymore. We just absolutely don't, right? It reminds me of the whole discussion when it comes down to like Rogue from X-Men and how she used to look versus how she is now. And I'm just kind of like, what the hell happened here? Why the hell is this here? What happened? Why can't we have a fine ass version of Rogue anymore? Why does she look like a piece of shit? I don't understand. And don't get me wrong, some shows still keep up the good work, like Gumball when it comes to Nicole, right? Sure, in the original version of her, she might not look that great and maybe not that big of a pig, and honestly, I agree to an extent. But also at the very same time, they took instances where they made her different, especially her fight with that one other chick, and it had like the whole anime aesthetic and everything, and from that day forward, that was the version of her that got looted the most, and then spawned other versions of Nicole that got looted as well, and which honestly was some peak ass entertainment. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I didn't even mention obviously Gwen from Ben 10, right? We already know how we feel about her. Then there's also like just other shows too, like Shaolin Showdown. Anybody remember Yumiko? Or I forgot her name. Did I say it right? Was it Yumiko? I feel like it was. But point is, she about bad as hell too. And again, no one really thinks about her in this day and age as well, right? It's kind of wild. My point is, though, just to be absolutely real, Cartoon Network had much more clappable, rememberable characters than I would say the other two pieces of competition, right? And then anybody else that jumps in is like a rarity, you know? It just genuinely is. It's not necessarily something that people will automatically just sit here and remember, unless it was just that damn good and it was just that damn popular and we still talk about it to this damn day. But that's really about how it goes, you know? The collabability level just throughout the time of Cartoon Network was always off the charts, and it was kind of always there, you know? And it doesn't even help, and especially if we were to add in like something like Toonami and all the other anime that got, you know, ported over to America so we can watch, That's G Cheese. Disney wasn't doing that. The most they had was like of note was, I believe, Naruto Shippuden, and that was like the earlier seasons. And then I don't know if this is true. I feel like it was. I might be wrong, but I don't know if DBZ Kai. No, I think DBZ Kai was on Nickelodeon. I think that's the most. I think that's the most they ever had. So there's that. But you know, that's not really enough, right? That's not really enough to kind of contend with the buttload of fine female figures from Cartoon Network's side. If I'm gonna be absolutely honest, right? Like hell, the only other show from Nickelodeon I can think of with a fine chick that was in it, I guess, was that whole Iron Man show where you had like, you know, the young, I think Tony's like whole ass dad died like in a car crash or whatever the hell or something like that, and it was like a bunch of high schoolers or whatever. Like Pepper was about fine as hell. I'd clap the shit out of Pepper, I ain't gonna sit here and lie. But at the very same time, that's really about it. There's not really much to go off of though, you know, unless I'm just forgetting stuff. But even then, even if I were to forget something, still there isn't much opposition compared to, you know, Cartoon Network, because there's still shows I haven't even listed off that very much is still a valid pick of anything. But if I wanted to cheat, honestly, I could deadass say the Justice League show. Like I could just put that in here and that still also would be a valid thing to kind of pick, right? And don't get me started like on a lot of the other smaller shows as well. And granted, I'll even go as far as say this: when they came down with the Justice League, at least the original version of it, I'm not gonna sit here and lie, that's the peak version of Wonder Woman, of design. Peakest versions of a lot of those female characters from DC. If we're gonna be real, that's how they should look always. They don't look like that all the time and it makes me sad, but it is what it is. But my point is though, it's just genuinely these characters from Cartoon Network, there is no way in hell you just sit here and you just be like, oh, Cartoon Network wasn't feeding the streets. No, they were feeding the streets. They're probably what inspired so many NSFW artists, if we're gonna be honest, to come through, just draw whatever the hell they're gonna draw and do all that sort of stuff too, right? Also, I'm gonna just toss this out there into the universe, and I could be very much wrong, but I'm just gonna say it because it gives me this feeling. But even someone like Zone Tan, and really any of Zone's characters at all, they all give me the Cartoon Network vibe from back then. So there is very much that, at least for me personally. But that is essentially, I suppose, all I really want to say for this one. Just kind of had that thought, just like, damn, there was a lot of fine women in Cartoon Network's history. How the hell have we not thought about that? So yeah, that's really all I want to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the button like, share, and way out. Also on socials, and if you'd like to donate to the channel, go find Cash Out is available as well. And until then, it's been Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.